committee meeting for, okay, I'm going to start over. This is Laurie Kovack, and I'm calling to order the Community Plan Steering Committee meeting, the Nesquin Citizens Advisory Council for March 18th, 2024. And it looks like all committee members are here except for Randall Koch. And we have one visitor so far, Mark Everett, chair of the NCAC. Welcome, everyone. And I'm wondering if someone has anything to amend on the agenda or if we can approve it.
Looks good to me.
Agreed.
Okay, we're going to approve the agenda and move forward. And do we have meeting minutes from the last meeting?
Jeff sent out the notes I took.
Okay. I have to say I missed those, but does anyone have anything to amend on the notes?
Do you want me to put them up?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay.
I missed them myself.
One
Can't
sec.
imagine why I wasn't doing anything.
Uh, and I guess just let me know when you want me to scroll down.
I'm ready.
Anytime. Okay. Done.
They
Okay.
all look good to me.
I'm good. Move to approve.
Seconded. I guess with no conflict, then I will say that we've approved the minutes as submitted by, or the notes as submitted by Lynne. And does anyone have a conflict of interest declaration that they need to make about today's agenda?
Nope. No conflict.
No.
None for me either. Guy?
No.
Okay, so we're moving on to the questionnaire for the April 13th general meeting. And I'm sorry I was late with it, but I sent it to everyone's emails today, this afternoon, probably about an hour ago. Has anyone had a chance to look at it?
Actually, I have made a presentation out of it so that we could look at it a little bit easier.
Okay.
Oh, you are a saint. Thank you.
If I could get custody of the screen, I could make sure that I can.
You should
Yes,
be
I
able to
can.
do it now, Tom. Go
Okay,
ahead and give
fair
it a
enough.
shot.
So what I did was I literally took your text and poured it into a presentation so we could look at things one at a time.
Okay.
Except I did make slight change to the first slide, which is the wording you had, but I just added the comment because that's about what it'll look like when it comes up on the, basically, these are straw polls. They're not
Okay.
polls, they are straw polls, and that's according to Robert's Rules of Order, which are our governing, one of our governing laws. So we can call them straw polls.
Perfect.
Okay.
So anyway,
So,
so there's going to be a comment section, which would be one line or however many lines Jeff decides we need.
right, and I was thinking that it would be one or at a maximum of 2 lines, just because if it gets any longer than that, it will take too much time, and it will be too much for us to compile, and it will be bulky in any report that we do. But if somebody had a short comment, they could make it, and then also we will invite them, as I put in the last sentence of it. Well, I'll just read the first paragraph. So what I'm proposing is that at the meeting, I would read this statement. Today, we are seeking feedback about the Neskowin values presented in the 2021, that's a typo, Neskowin Community Plan. There are seven values we would like you to consider, with 6 possible responses for each. We will also have a very small section for comments on each. Longer comments can always be submitted to the committee at info@neskowincac.org. And the answers I came up with, well, I would read this. Pick one of these responses for each question. You'll have agree, generally agree, but needs updating. 3, no opinion or neutral. 4, disagree, but will reconsider if there are revisions. 5, disagree, and 6, choose not to answer. And then the 1 line for comments. And I'm totally open to different suggestions on the wording of those 6 questions or answers, I guess.
Yeah,
If
I'm
anyone,
just wondering, okay, those first 5 are degrees of agreement.
or
And we will,
disagreement.
and then we will drop the last one in terms of coming up with a number answer. So the lower the excuse me, the lower the number is the higher, more it's favored. Essentially, that's what happens.
That would be the way I would think
Yeah,
it would
okay.
be clear to present.
Yeah, okay.
Does anyone have any editing that they think would be a better response for us to use for making deliberations, or something that would be clearer?
Well, I
Well,
suggest,
go ahead.
sorry, Tom. Well, I suggested, I think earlier, kind of a more of a 1 to 10 line. You would kind of mark it somewhere on the line. This kind of gets it to a 1 to 5 line. I'm not sure the difference between 2 and 4. Other than if I'm there, I may start out saying, yeah, but it needs fixing. And number 4 would say, no, but if it was fixed, I could go with it. In both 2 and 4, someone is saying that they could go with it if it was edited. And so I don't know then the difference between 2 and 4. I'm not, I think if you went from 1 to 10, you could separate those out where, agree, and I would actually do maybe use language that would emphasize agree, like, I'm just kidding here, but really agree, or fantastic, whatever. I don't know what the words I had come up with, but so that somebody who's really enthusiastic about that particular value, that they would have that number 1 choice. If someone were really against that particular value, they would have a choice of things. So I would, let's just say in my scale, in my head, 1 would be really excited, yes, absolutely agree, this is the most whatever. And number 10 would be absolutely no, this is not part of what Neskowin values should be. So that's my general thought. Yeah, so 2 and 4, I'm not sure what the difference is. I still like the 10, 1 to 10. I would drop 6.
No, that should be an answer though. 6
Actually,
is,
6 was something that someone requested at the last meeting. I didn't have that
Yeah,
on there last
okay.
time.
yeah. So
Oh,
Um,
maybe it could be, I don't know.
I don't, I think the difference between a 2 and a 3 and a scale of 10 is kind of slight. I would propose to simplify the language a little bit and call 2 generally agree or 3 generally disagree. That, and leave the middle as neutral. So we simplify the language. Makes it easier
So-
for people to choose.
Leave out the
I will-
editing, updating, revisions. Leave that out, Tom.
Yeah, just basically give them the and as you said, you were somewhat confused about 2 and 4 because they have they say kind of the same thing.
Right.
So if we don't talk about updating, we just talk about you agree, you generally agree, which means you're kind of okay with it. You're neutral. It's one way or another, doesn't matter much to you. You disagree, generally disagree, then you're kind of unhappy with it, or disagree, you're really unhappy with it.
Do you think, Tom, the difference between generally disagree and disagree is people's minds that different? I'm wondering if there needs to be,
Or disagree strongly.
yeah, and agree.
You could, yeah, and agree strongly. That would work.
Yeah.
What are other people's thoughts? I can make the edits live here.
Well, I would say strongly agree and strongly disagree.
Okay.
And then do the edit what you said to take out the editing options for 2 and 4. Yeah.
I think that and I love the straw poll discovery, Tom, so thank you for that. 'Cause that's perfect. That gives it the right tone. I just think strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. I mean, simple language is
Yeah,
the best. Look,
that's perfect. Okay.
And the choose not to answer is an interesting one. I guess I'd like to understand why we would have that, because what you do when you vote on a ballot, you just don't vote, right? If you don't want to vote for anyone, you just don't vote. So what's the purpose of choose not to agree? Because it has kind of an implication.
we did not
answer. Yeah.
We did not have anything like that on the poll that we did, or the straw poll that we did at the last meeting. And somebody asked for it, and so I put it in there. I have no
There's excuse me, I don't mean to step on. It must be a lie here because I keep stepping on people. Sorry. There is a logistic reason for that. If someone can do a choose not to answer, that's an affirmative. So the person who is actually running the poll, as in Jeff, can actually know that it's over. Otherwise, it's the hanging fire. So it's kind of a practical thing. I don't know that it means anything particularly, but it's a practical thing. So I'd rather leave it in.
Tom, do you think there's a difference between neutral and no opinion?
I think no opinion means I choose not to answer.
So no opinion.
That's they're kind of an outlier. They're not even involved.
So I would say number 6. I don't know. My brain says no opinion for number 6 sounds better to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's an answer.
Okay.
I agree.
It's fewer words. I like that. Less is more.
We'll
You will learn that about me. Fewer words is better.
save ink.
And we need to correct the spelling of number 1, Tom, strongly is missing
Oh,
its.
I like it that spelled that way.
Okay, I'll defer to you.
Okay. Well, see, Webster and I disagree, and he's dead.
So up in the first line, 2001 needs to be 2021.
Okay.
And then the other question, now that we're talking about it, that I wonder is,
So hold on a second. Is it the 2021 Nesquin Community Plan?
well, Guy,
No, it
didn't you
isn't.
say that was when it was approved?
2001 is when it was approved.
2001 is correct.
Oh, okay. My head was in the wrong place. Sorry.
No problem.
Clearly, it was in the correct place a few hours ago.
In 2021, or your mind was fogged with COVID. That's what you did.
Apparently.
Okay. Before we go any further, I'm going to do a save as, because this is revision 0, and we are now creating revision 1. We'll talk about that later. That's part of the transparency thing,
Okay.
so we can show every step along the way.
Yep, that's great, Tom. Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Any other changes?
No.
Okay, so the next thing I did was I took all 7 of these, and there is a rule about presentation. Never have more than 35 words on any slide. That's more. So what I did was I just broke them up into one per each, and we consider them separately. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Fine with me.
Because I get lost in the sea of characters if I read too many of them. So are we at this point now? I guess we are.
Yeah.
Because I'm not meant to be driving this. I'm just.
So we had this thing that came up, I thought, over email about the use of the term citizens. And I think for whatever reason, I have kind of felt it was not a term we should be using for a whole lot of reasons. And I think Sarah Absher was on an email exchange, and she agreed. And so how does it read if we change this around, and instead of Nesquin citizen to say I want Nesquin to be a place of whatever, and that would follow through with all the others. So it kind of is it makes it a little more personal. Directs it. This is your opinion. I want Nesquin to whatever.
Yeah, in opinion poll, that would probably be appropriate. In a document, of course, it wouldn't. In terms of the word citizen, we are the CAC.
I know.
That's C. That
Which I
first
wish
C is citizen.
we tried to change that name, but yeah,
that's not our bag of marbles. I don't know that we get to play, but
yeah, and I'm not sure. Well, but at least in the CAC, you describe your membership very broadly, and so citizen it has definition in the bylaw. Well, will have definition in the bylaws. Here it doesn't.
Actually, we don't use or I should say, leaving my planning committee hat on, they don't use the word citizen anymore at all.
Right, but
that word is not in the bylaws.
But it's the Citizen Advisory Committee, and by
Other than
memberships, you define what citizen is. Here we don't, and I just think it's better not to use that term. And I don't even know what it means, to be honest. What's a Nesquin citizen?
So the reason why I use those terms is because I was going back to the document that we are revising.
Right.
And that's exactly the words that are in the document.
Right.
And so that's the justification that Nesquin has said that those are their values. So to me, I could clarify in the intro that the words that they're going to read are the words that are in the document, if you think that's important. But if we truly want them to look at what the wording is in the document and tell us if they agree or not, then I don't think we should be changing the words personally.
Well, except
Okay.
that Nesco Citizen has nothing to do with the values statements. I agree that we're asking about the same values. It's just that the Nesco Citizen is a descriptive. It's not anything to do with the values. So I'm okay with changing it.
Okay, so just to be clear about what we're discussing, which I try to be every once in a while. So this is the original, and this is what's being proposed. In terms of this particular function, I like Guy's point that we're trying to make this personal. Now, it's going to be a different debate as to what goes into the document. And
So,
I see,
Tom,
ahead.
can I just ask a question about that? Because I didn't, tell me so we can't use residents, right? Because we're interested in people who work in Nescoin, we're interested in people who visit Nescoin, et cetera. But I guess the other thing is if there is no connection to Nescoin at all, right, then that's not appropriate either.
I think if I understand what you're saying, just make sure that I do. What you're saying is that taking away the Nescoin citizens statement weakens the tie between people who care about Nescoin and the rest of the world.
And I guess the reason I raise that is the whole purpose of these community plans. Let's be clear here. Nescoin's an unincorporated area. And so the whole point is to give voice to people who are from or engaged heavily in unincorporated areas, because they're not like voting for their elected officials or something, and they're not, it's a status that is not given to everyone to participate in community plans. So one thing we could say is, as a community member, I want Nescoin to be a place where, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there is intentionally supposed to be a tie to the community plan. And so I would say, for example, let's just, if
That sounds good to me. I get that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can make an assumption that everybody who's attending the CAC meeting is somebody who has an interest in Nescoin. But I think what you just suggested, as a community member, I want whatever. That's fine. That makes sense. And then you're emphasizing both the fact that you are a member and it's personal. That's good. Yeah.
So would there be any reason to have it as kind of on two lines? So the intro line is, as a Nescoin community member, and then dot or something, and then because then each of the ones that they're responding to are direct quotes. Want Nescoin to be a place where
Yeah, I can do that too. Just do it once up on top in the intro.
Yeah, that's just editing, but I was going to point that out later.
Yeah.
But is this the sense that we want to look at, rather than Nescoin citizen, Nescoin community member?
Yeah, that's good.
And we personalize it at least for the survey.
Yeah.
So
yeah, when we write the document, who knows, we'll have to struggle with that later.
Yeah. Boy. Okay. You're running it.
Well, do you want to go through the questions?
Well, I mean, are we done with this one?
Let me just ask, because so Laurie, your intention here is that we use exactly the same language to describe the values as it was in 2000.
And my reasoning is that we would take this information and use it as the basis of focusing part of the first community meeting that we have.
Mhm.
And we would go back and we would say, this is our existing plan. These are the values that are in it. Our task is to revise the plan if appropriate. If we can't come to agreement about revisions, this will remain our plan. And there can be a minority report or something, or two minority reports. But if we don't come to agreement, this is our plan. And this was the initial response we got from the community meeting in April. And because of that, these two questions were the most controversial or had the most responses and questions about the wording. So we're going to start talking about these two questions, but we will talk about all 7 in order of the responses that we got. And then it's kind of a clear reason why we're doing what we're doing.
Well, and recall the other reason to do this that we talked about at our last meeting, I think it was the last one or the one before, is that we're trying to get commitment to the process from people by saying, we kind of set out some values a long time ago, and guess what? Although everything didn't get done, our values are broadly intact. And
Right.
so this process has meaning to you in terms of the future of our community. Doesn't mean we can't add values and say, I'd also like whatever. But I think this was a really good idea to start with. This is what's on the book. It had some success, and we need to update it. And updating can include adding values, or if someone wants to make a case for deleting a value, they can make the case. But it's the starting point for an informed discussion that was successful in some respects, not all, in 2001.
So I'd like to make a case for the bottom entry here. It has essentially the same sense, the meaning, as what is in the current document. But what it does do is it calls upon the reader to figure out what every Nesquin citizen wants, or the majority wants, as opposed to eliciting a specific response for how you feel. They can say, well, Nesquin citizens want this. I don't really want it, but they want that. This personalizes it. I think Guy's statement of personalizing it, I think is quite powerful in the survey. Another battle to figure out how to put it in a document.
Right.
You
So
okay with that, Laurie?
I'm okay with that.
So here's my general concern. We are lumping into 7 value statements. Yes, they're coming out of the 2001 document, but each of them contains different values, and certainly different areas. They're not discrete. So let's just even take the first one. I mean, you're talking about safety, utilities,
Fair point.
it just seems they're not, they're lumped together. And I may say, I don't really care about adequate utility services, but boy, safety is an important thing to me. How do I answer this one?
The guy.
Yeah.
So finish your thought, because I don't want to interrupt.
Well, no, just that they're not discrete enough for me.
Right.
And I think it could be confusing. And every one of them is like that. Every one of them is kind of mixed values or mixed areas of value that could make it hard to answer. And my thought was, and I know this, maybe we have to ask fewer questions, but we say utility services, a separate, rate it 1 to 5 or whatever we got. Essential pedestrian streets, rate it. So we have a very specific sense of what people think about each of these things. and still use the values that came out of a 1, just get better information and more
So-
discrete information.
I think we can do that. So let me just, again, I'm going to be a advocate throughout for making this accessible to people who want to be involved at various levels of detail. The way to do that in a straw poll is to say, for example, and again, what we're trying to do is say, here's where you were in 2001, and here's where we need to go, is to say in a follow-up question, if we like, after they've said, this one's, I strongly agree. I mean, first of all, if everyone takes those things, puts them together, and they strongly agree, the next question could be, which is, please prioritize the 4 items, or whatever, however many there are, 1, 2, 3. Please put your own priority on those. And then we can take that information and we can get very clear about within each section, what are the priorities. But if we start out with too long a list at too much detail, I think
Oh, yeah, I know.
there is a relationship of these things. Safety is related to adequate utility services, and essential pedestrian streets tie to safety. But I think we can get what you want with just a simple second question that gives people, as opposed to just giving them a long list right at the outset.
Yeah, I'm not so sure, Lynn, that the forced ranking will do that. I mean, you may force me to do forced ranking with things I don't, none of them which I agree with.
Right,
You know what I mean?
Or
but
all
you
of
can't
which.
have 30 values.
No, I get that. I
Yeah.
get that. I just think it's gonna, I understand why we're repeating what we saw in 01. I think one of the people may say, I don't know how to judge each one of these questions, given that there are several different discrete items in here. And maybe
So-
we're asking them to weigh it in general, you know, like, okay, I've got this list of things, safety, utilities, pedestrian streets, you know, is there any one thing here that's negative enough for me to say, no, I don't agree with?
So this is my idea about where we are with this. We are part of a meeting that has a whole bunch of other stuff going on about it. This is not our meeting to talk about values. When we talked about doing these straw polls, we said it's a way to get people involved, hopefully engaged, buy in, so they're willing to participate in a more in-depth manner. We talked about having in-person meetings, and we talked about having, well, all of them hybrid, but some of them in person, and some just on Zoom. It could very well that we go through each one of these in the same way that the bylaws committee went through every single part of the things that they were revising, and give people time to talk about, I believe in utility services, but I do not want pedestrian streets. Cars are good, and so are RVs and trucks. You know, whatever it is, but I don't think that's the point of this. Unless the meeting's being turned over to us, I don't know how much time Jeff might know how much time we have, but we usually have like 5 minutes. There's 7 questions. So even if they give us 10 minutes for 7 questions, that's going to be a lot for people to process. Like, what do I really think about this? This is the first time I've been presented with this concept, whatever. I don't think we can expect them to talk in depth about these things unless we're like given a half an hour, and maybe not even then. It seems appropriate to me to be at a meeting specifically about this, and that's not what these sets of questions are supposed to do.
Yeah, and just to jump in, great question. And the agenda on the 13th is going to have a lot of stuff in it, and bylaws is going to take most of it. So you will probably get 10 minutes the most.
Right. So
yeah, I would say the same thing. I'm just thinking about the agenda on the 13th, and we're kind of ramping up for the bylaw vote, which we think is going to be in May, and they're going to present that day. So it will be a pretty full agenda for April 13th. Unfortunately for this, I know.
Well, if we think that we're actually going to get not a final answer, But if the goal is to get people's interest, if somebody says, well, to themselves or to the, that's really a stupid thing, they're going to get involved. Or that's a brilliant thing, they're going to get involved. So, I mean, it's going to be a flag more than almost a call to action. These are the kinds of things that we're considering. If you're interested in these kinds of things, you should be involved. And I think
Well,
those
not
7 questions could probably do that.
not just that we're considering, these are the plan. Like this is the
Well, okay, fair
reality.
enough, fair enough. Same thing with the
Um,
bylaws. We didn't come to an agreement on it. They would have been the same.
Right. So the other thing is we could go back to that initial statement that I'm going to read to explain better that this is like we are getting a first reaction from the community about the values that are in the plan. There will be a lot more discussion about these values in depth at a community meeting or more, something like that.
And you could even say, even to emphasize it more, these are the values as currently written. I mean, this is not our language in a sense. What you've done is you've taken these statements out of the 2001 plan.
Right, where it says presented, it could be today we are seeking feedback about the Nesquin values currently in the
Yeah.
2001 Nesquin Community Plan.
Yep. And can I just ask, on that meeting on the 13th, what time is it?
10 a.m.
Because that's at the same time as the board meeting of the golf course. And so we need a community calendar. So it's 10 a.m. to win.
Can you hear me, Lynn?
Yes.
I didn't. It looks like, okay. So the meeting starts at 10 a.m. And I mean, honestly, we hope that they're done by noon. we hope they're done before noon, but I anticipate any more. I just kind of block out 2 hours for sort
Got
of
it.
all of these meetings. So
Thank you.
Right. General meetings don't usually go 2 hours, but this one will probably go over an hour. So
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It'll definitely go over an hour. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Thank you.
Okay, I kind of lost the fox on that. Is this the suggested change?
That was my suggested change.
Yeah, I'm good with
And
that.
the only other thing would be, like at the end, you could say something like, these values will be discussed in depth at a community meeting or something like that. Discussed and refined.
Or just more
Potential.
specifically discussed. Something like that.
Right.
And we can certainly say that there may be additional values.
I was going to suggest that at the end that we have a 7th, which values are missing.
There you go.
Well, again, 10 minutes.
No. We just ask the question. We take the answers. We don't discuss.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to be the community, let them know it's the community meetings for the community plan, not the general NCAC meetings, because people need to get that in their head that there's going to be this other group of meetings that they need to pay attention to, because it won't just be polls or straw polls that happen at the general meeting.
Is that the correct reference to our committee? Subcommittee, I should say.
Specifically discussed in subsequent community plan meetings.
Subcommittee.
So Laurie, are you going to present this? I mean, I know Rand will be back by then, but it seems that you should present it probably.
I was going to, just because I presented the last one and Rand does a lot of stuff, but I have no ownership of it, so whatever.
No, but since you've been involved in discussing this with us.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other changes?
Do we
This is-
want to say these values will be more specifically discussed and potentially revised in
Yeah.
subsequent community plan? So discussed, potentially revised, and something could be added. I don't know the words. I'm just babbling.
I think that's
Amen-
great. Just
Amended.
discussed, revised in subsequent community plan subcommittee meetings. That implies you can add, you can subtract. I think that's great.
Okay.
Oh,
So I
Okay,
would
as it
say
is?
discussed and revised. I'm sure there will be revisions.
I got a slash there.
I
Okay.
like the slash. I'm a big fan of slashes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, me too. It's fewer words that way. Yeah, it's a theme for me.
So I'm just having a little picture in my head of reading this to the group and doing slash.
I like it. Drama.
We'll applaud.
Okay. All right. So with these changes and with those different choices of replies, do we have agreement that this will be what is presented at the next general April NCAC general meeting?
How about it?
Yes.
Okay with me.
You want a motion?
Sure.
I move we present this at the April 13th meeting, and there you go.
Okay, do you want me to leave please attend in or not?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, once again, just thinking about our time limit, there's 7 questions with a room for comments, and there are 10 minutes. I'm happy to say please attend, but yeah, leave it in. I'll say it quickly.
And Tom, I don't know how we do this, but can you send this edited version to Jeff? Because this should be part of the notes, and that's the fastest way to incorporate our discussion, is to just reflect this updated chart in the notes.
yes. What I'll do is I'll put it into our library. Do we have a library yet, Jeff?
Yeah, you have access to it.
Okay, fair enough. It'll be in our library and I'll send out a pointer. Actually, I'll
And-
send it. I don't have each one of your individual email addresses. And the way I generally distribute documents is I blind copy everybody and make it to myself. And then you get the copy and there will be a pointer to the specific file. So, and it can be referred to in the minutes as where it is. Is that acceptable?
It is with me.
Okay.
Also, are we going to let Jeff use his judgment about the size of the comment line, whatever fits in the
I don't
format?
even know if Zoom gives us choice about how big that field is. It probably does not. We probably
Okay.
just,
Yeah, I don't think
Um,
it's, yeah, I think leaving that in there would be fine, but I think we can process in a former life when I actually people paid me to do this as opposed to me doing it for free. I would be shepherding documents of some 2,000 pages and there'll be something like, 1,500 comments.
Oh, goodness.
So going through a couple of hundred comments, not a big deal.
All right, great. We're glad we have you on board.
As long as you can
So-
stand me.
Does anyone have any other comments about this agenda item? Otherwise, we'll move on to agenda item 6. We
I
ready to
just
move
wanted to
on?
remind you that you have a meeting on April 1st, so you can think about it and discuss again before the general meeting on April
Okay.
13th.
Okay.
So as just to touch base, I will make this same change to all subsequent ones.
Correct.
And I think we have agreement that we're just going to lift what was there and then present that. Okay, I'll make that change before I save it. And I'll save that as a change version and then a subsequent one that's clean, which you could actually present.
Great.
So I don't have the agenda up in front of me, and I'm taking notes, and I'm trying to find it in my email file, but I have this as agenda item 4. Where?
There we go.
Thank you. So I just want to get my numbers. We did. Oh, okay. So the welcome call. Okay. I'm not going to tie my numbers to these. Okay. Thanks. Go.
Okay.
So
Organizing-
Tom, you're next
Okay.
with organizing the website document library.
All right. Let's see if I can find my. So actually, those two items that where I am, I kind of combined them into one presentation. I
Okay.
called them planning the plan.
So the
and
other
it's-
agenda item that he's combined said first pass at dissecting the current community plan. So those two are one now.
Those are really interrelated because how we organize the storage should be reflected on how we parcel up the document. So just my thoughts, initial thoughts, and I'll try to be brief about this, is that the executive overview isn't really an overview. We can fix that. There's a whole lot of detail in history, and I think we need to move that off somewhere else. I think we had agreement on that. And the real content of the document really begins on page 11. So we need to move forward the meat. We're burying the lead. So we need to move that up, and we need to touch on in the executive overview on what we want and where we are, less than a page, and then delve into that. According to Sarah, this community plan is a land use document.
Yep.
That is part of the community. I think that's limiting.
Oh,
land
it's
use is
state
only-
law. It's state law. This is not where we get to color on the edges. This is
Well,
a
I
legal
mean-
document under the state's land use laws.
Okay. So it's only that. So what happens to the rest of the things that the community cares about? To me, this is patently not a community plan unless it addresses all the things that the NCAC has purview of. So where does that go?
I think, that, just from a land use perspective, what I would tell you is that the NCAC has defined itself differently than many of the other CACs in the state. Every county, 36 counties have comprehensive plans. Each county has a varying number of formalized cities, unincorporated areas,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And so the NCAC could have its own document saying, these are all the other things we're concerned about. But I don't think, I think we have to be very clear that the only piece we're doing right now is the land use plan. And anything and we got to get it done first because it's got to get done this year. Anything else that the NCAC wants to address, that's up to, I presume the bylaws allow you to determine how you're going to run the organization. But I would be very careful. You
Okay.
can certainly attach it to all the copies of the community plan, but the community plan has a very specific, and I shouldn't have said legal, it's an administrative rule, requirement and role under Oregon's land use planning laws.
Yeah, that seems to me to miss the point of a community plan. I just think that's tragic.
Well, I think one of the sensitivities, this may be more helpful. One of the sensitivities here is that many communities have community plans, and they may be, I had a chart once, I wish I still had it, that showed, for example, in some of the counties around Oregon, how many plans there were. And so the city in Portland, for example, there would be a homeless plan, there would be a daycare plan, there would be so part of what the sensitivity with the land use program going back to its early days was, listen, you're the land use plan. We're not turning over control of the state to you. We need to have our own authority to make plans for our communities within the state's regulatory structure, not all of which falls under LCDC. It falls under ODF and W and everyone else. So I think there are other plans in most jurisdictions, many community plans. And I think each community has, based on their legal framework, probably, I don't know, but has their plans that are beyond, and in a perfect world, they'd all relate, right? And I think originally with land use planning, the hope was that there would be more integration of those community plans. Let's say, for example, a community decided it wanted to be the center of all economic development of a certain kind, and they wanted to declare that. The reason the land use planning program in Oregon has so many goals is it was viewed as this kind of, let's get our arms around everything, because it's in those days eating up all the farmland in Oregon to do other things. And I think that original vision, which was 50 years ago, has had greater and lesser successes in different parts of the state. You know, Washington County did decide it was going to be a focal point of high tech, and in fact was successful in using its land use plan to say, look, we specifically said we're going to do this, and we're doing it through our high tech vision. But I think today it is very variable. And doesn't mean it can't happen here, Tom, just to be clear. I'm not saying we can't add to the community plan, but the scope of Sarah's authority and ours is the land use part of this plan. The NCAC can take that within the framework of Oregon's laws wherever it wants to try and take that.
Because I've read a couple of other community plans, and they're not much like ours. And they do, I think, you know, I guess you could argue that everything is a land use. You know, health and safety is a land use, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that where the rubber meets the road, and it's a hard thing, it's a tough thing, but you can, for example, you could say, I'm just taking a hypothetical, you could say that Nesquin's values are first and foremost to have a successful healthcare system. And so you can say that, there's nothing wrong with saying that, and it may have land use implications because healthcare systems require land. But there's multiple other chunks of law and regulation in Oregon that take healthcare roles, and the biggest agency in the state is healthcare, and you're going to have to fit within all those things. So for example, when the state law says hospitals have to operate at certain amounts of financial margins, for example, Nesquin's can say whatever it wants in its community plan, but that document is not nearly as powerful as the state laws and regulations surrounding hospitals.
Well, I mean, that's true in any kind of hierarchical system.
Just a minute. I just want to interrupt for a second. We have a guest who's joined us, Harvey Rubinstein, who I believe was at the last meeting also. Just for the future, anybody that's watching this, I hope that you will introduce yourself as you join the group, just so that we all can include everyone in our thoughts.
Okay.
Thanks.
And I have him in the minutes or the notes.
Oh, great.
Okay,
Great.
so I think we're probably spending too much time on this. It was something that bothered me, and I'll look at it some more. And I think I heard between the lines that we could probably add things which may not have an effect. But Sarah has said one of the audiences is people who want to know about Nesquin, and you know, this is a face of the community. To people who are looking from the inside and people who are considering joining the community. Just talking about land use strictly is probably not functional for that. So that's probably too much time spent on that, but thank you for the education. So it's a library structure.
Wait, was there one more on that last slide that you didn't mention?
Oh, we're more about, it's basically the same thing. We're more about land use.
Okay.
And we are larger than the Nesquin. You know, there's a little bit of a conflict in my mind. Here's the purview of the NCAC. And my understanding is land use is only relevant in this kind of turquoise color. So there's a mismatch. That's my understanding. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I think you're correct. I think Sarah's talked about that several times, that the NCAC, as I understand it, decided that the watershed boundaries would be the NCAC's boundaries. Is that correct?
That is the current proposal. That has to be approved. That's not approved.
And who approves it?
The membership. And
General-
county first, and then the membership.
Okay. Yeah.
So it has to go past the county first.
Understood. Okay.
Okay.
But
Previously,
Sarah did say the green area is the community plan area for purposes of this document.
Yeah.
Right.
By the way, folks, just in case you didn't notice, we lost Guy, and I think he's going to try and call in, but I don't think he has yet.
we still have quorum, so I think we're okay, but.
Thanks, Jeff, for mentioning that. I didn't realize that.
So
He's
did
supposed
that address my last question? I guess we should not then necessarily mention anything about safety, watershed, public access, all that sort of thing that doesn't do anything inside here.
I personally think that we need to talk to Sarah about this, but all those things are discussed in the current plan. So once again, if what we're doing is revising the current plan, those items will continue to exist.
I certainly hope so, yeah.
And so I don't know enough about the land use laws and this community plan requirements to be able to say, yes, we can include all those things, but it seems like we should include at least the topics that are in the current plan, because our mission is to revise the current plan.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
I think you're spot on, Laurie. And what we have to ask Sarah is, because she's the one who brought it forward first, is, and I'm not current on this, she deals with it every day. If the NCAC views its boundaries as the watershed and is going on that path, how does the community plan work in this process going forward? And originally, for example, this housing thing we're going to have to tackle, originally, I was kind of hoping Sarah would bring to the table an update of how these communities plans work in the 21st century, that we're 50 years out from land use planning, or whenever it was adopted, 25 years, whatever it is. And she can address this. So maybe we should bookmark an action item for this meeting would be to bookmark this discussion to carry forward when Sarah's attending.
Fair enough.
By the way, we have someone new on the phone who is probably Guy, but we should probably confirm that Guy is back with us. And 4489, you're currently muted if you are Guy. And now you are unmuted, but we can't hear you if you're talking.
You can't hear me?
Okay, now we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We had some electricians at the house. And I went down to see if they did anything to disconnect our Wi-Fi. So we have no Wi-Fi. Anyways, so I apologize for the call in here.
Guy, you're welcome to come to our house if you want to. This is Laurie.
Oh, that's all right. That's okay.
You are the next two agenda items. You have your number 8 on the agenda is Guy with the 2001 recommendations, and Guy with the report on outreach to the water and sewer activities.
So I can be quick there.
But
so
that's the wait a minute, that's the next.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Oh,
just
you're not
for
there
you to
yet.
know. You're coming.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, what I'm proposing is something similar to what the bylaws had. But our meetings are somewhat different, but basically, I mean, you can read it there. It's reports, member comments. Those are things that we get in. If we get we solicit. That's where we store them. We should generally, when we get an email with member comments, we should redact the email addresses and then store them in a PDF format. That's because of privacy concerns. And then a folder for surveys, a folder for reference for us for other community plans, a meeting subdirectory, and each meeting gets its own subdirectory with agenda, minutes, pointers to presentations. And then as we have sections, as we divide sections up, we would have a subfolder for each one of the sections. That way we can work somewhat in parallels. This is going to be somewhat of a serial operation, but there should be some things that we can do in parallel. Administrivia is probably this slide would go there. Slide set would go there. So just things that are just don't fit anywhere else. And then we have a rolling draft of what we're currently working on. If we want to make that, if we start constructing the actual document or modifying the document, we could have interim versions there, making it plain that those are just interim versions. But a lot of times people like to see sausage being made, but most people don't. Other folders might be interesting as time goes on. Right now, I can't think of them, and as they're thought of, it's easy to change. Any comments? Deathly silence. Okay.
Did you say this?
I don't.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I think we have to say thank you. I think this is, you know, I guess I'm concerned about where this work lands. And so Tom, are you volunteering to do this work?
Oh, sure. That's not an issue. I can do that.
Okay. So, so thank you. I think is the thing I think we need to say.
Oh, okay. I'll take that.
So if we were to, for instance, forward a member comment that came directly to us, but really was meant for the group, would we forward that to the admin at Nesquin CAC or to you?
Well, we have a choice. We can either have Jeff do absolutely everything that NCAC does, or we could offload some of that and you can send it to me. The committee
And
should
for
decide.
public meeting requirements or public whatever,
Yeah.
Either of those would be acceptable.
Yeah. So Jeff and I can write to the directories just by virtue of keeping things strange or keeping things not strange. And either Jeff or I could do it if one of us was not available, but I suspect that it would be better if I did it. Jeff, you comment?
Yeah, I think if you're comfortable taking it on, I will totally let you handle that. And I think what Laurie was referring to is sometimes stuff gets forwarded to admin.
Yeah.
With the intent that I will forward it on. But you are comfortable with the BCC trick, so I think you're good for that too.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that it's a good idea for emails that you send to each other to be CC'd to admin, just so that if, heaven forbid, if lawyers ever come calling, all the emails are in that account and they don't have to come look at your accounts. So.
So we're not doing that in the bylaws committee.
Well, I mean, you're mostly done, but I think this committee is much more likely to be the subject of lawsuits than the bylaws committee. But hopefully this one won't either, because we'll do a great job and no one will want to sue us.
So that's an interesting concept of CCing the. I have to think about that. If whether or not I should take on any forwarding, because if everything is meant to go through you, then everything should go through you.
Well, it's not that I need to be in the middle of everything. It's just that if I am CC'd, I can flag it, and then if we get sued, knock on wood, knock on like everything.
Yeah.
We at least have a chance of saying, hey, lawyers, it's all in this one account. You only have to look at that, and then no one's personal email accounts get rated, or at least get rated less. So yeah.
So basically, are you saying that we should send, so the blind copy technique, which Sarah seemed to think was okay, is not okay?
No. You just blind copy and UCC admin. Like you use both.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we could send it to you and then blind copy everybody else. Because basically
Right.
I've been sending it to myself, which is
Yes.
kind of silly.
So I recommend, for the purposes of trying to put as much records in our account that is the NCAC account as possible, that in correspondence between members of the committee, especially like when if you're using the blind copy, or even not, like just anything where it's committee business and you're emailing each other, to CC admin, and I will flag it so that
So the open meeting law permits us to have two of us work together.
right. And I still
And-
recommend that you CC me, so that, because this is not about open meeting law, this is about Nescoin adopts the community plan, somebody sues us because they feel that community plan has like affected their property rights or something like that. And then when we can say, lawyers, all the emails are here, and no one has to come look at your personal email. Or at least that's the hope. That's the aspiration.
Wow. Guess I can do that.
And Rand has been doing that. He's been really diligent about it. So
Okay. I just wish the people who made the law of this sorts of things had to abide by them.
yes.
So,
Anyway.
Jeff, I know you have a lot to do, and this is going to just be like we're all anyway, whatever. If you see that not working, if you notice that would you just continue to remind us, because you're involved in this with all different committees, and so you're being reminded constantly of the right protocol, and those of us that don't have it as a habit,
Well,
if we do mess up, it'd be great to be reminded.
so if I'm not CC'd, I will not be able to remind you, because I won't know that you sent the email.
Right. I guess you would be forwarded something where you can see that, oh, this is something I haven't been following. But
Sure. If someone CCs me late on a thread that's already been going, I can send out the reminder.
yeah, great. Thank you.
That is a difference in that. In the bylaws committee, we virtually had no threads. So they were only.
And we shouldn't have threads here either.
Yeah.
So the scenario I just described, we shouldn't actually have it. But,
so
unless it's like between two people or something. So
yeah.
Just good to have consistent reminders.
Right.
Are we ready to move on to Guy's
I think
part?
I'm more than ready.
Okay. All right, Guy, you're on with your two
But
agenda
no,
items.
actually, I had breakdown, suggested
okay.
breakdown.
All right, go for it.
Into sections, executive overview, and this really basically builds on. I think was it you, Laurie, that had the outline? I don't remember who
It
had-
was Lynne.
Lynne. And this is basically a condensation of that. We can look at it. We're running a little late, I guess. That's what that looked like, how it would shake out. I would like to have the success of previous requests, unresolved requests, and new requests as being 3 different sections.
Okay.
I think SB 406 is probably worth something on its own. And we may combine these differently once the document's done, but I think in terms of work products, I think these are probably reasonable work products.
So
The thing I would add, Tom, under new requests to the county,
Yeah,
406, I would make that a sub category of request to the county, because technically, even though it's a state law, it has to be approved. We are not going to have a lot of choices, but it's going to have to be approved. So I would make it. And the other thing is, there may be other requests to the county with changes in zoning uses. I mean, 406 is a use change. There might be others. So
in terms of a work product, are they going to be? Yes, there are some subsections here,
yeah,
but my guess was that 406 was going to be a substantial package. And like I said, we can fold it in for the final document, however it makes sense. But in terms of a work package, that seemed like a standalone thing.
I think that I'm going to guess that there's going to be a number of recommendations for changes in use in at least 2 of the zones. And I think with the last time, I think then we kind of talk about that, some of the crazy uses that we may want to pull out. And the 2001 group recommended those as well, and it never happened.
So
And
that would go into the unresolved.
Yeah, let's see. Where would it go? Where are you saying to?
Unresolved request.
Yes.
So we
Well,
gotta
it would be unresolved and then also new request.
then new is the next one.
Yeah.
And then my supposition was that SB 406 is so new that it's probably going to require just its own thing, which can get folded into something else later.
We can fit this in. I mean, it's fine.
We haven't assigned anything yet, and if it makes sense to break it up differently, that's fine too. But if we have this structure, if we can live with this structure, then I'll reflect that in the library in terms of where to put documents.
Now, one of the things, and this kind of combines with one of my reports, I have both from the sewer district and the water district, their plans and the reviews of their infrastructure. I think, I mean, they're both in one, I mean, they're long documents that I don't think we need to duplicate. I think they should be in the appendices.
Yep.
And I'm thinking that I was going to throw this out. I was actually looking at this today, earlier, that could we put links? I can have a brief description, like the sewer district. I can have a brief description of what's happened since 2001, with their updates in 2005, with their review they had, I think, in 2022 by an engineer. Just a brief paragraph or so and then put a link in to that review. Anybody wants to really take a deep dive, that's a bad metaphor, isn't it? Into the sanitary system.
Links are
problematic.
Problematic in documents, because unless you can be absolutely certain, that's never going to change.
Except what I was thinking, and Jeff could weigh in on this, I think these reports should be on our CAC website. for everybody to have access to, and the CAC could make sure that they're always there. And then if and when they're updated, that we would just always carry an updated report. And so if people want to know more about our water system or our sanitation system, they can go to the CAC, because you won't find these on either of the websites of the sewer district and the water district. And I think they should be at least available for people who want to look.
Jeff?
So keeping the, like, we can definitely put the documents either on the website or in the library, which are not exactly the same thing.
But whatever, I meant the library.
Yeah.
Yes.
Having links that will not go stale is it's definitely like technically possible, but with our tools, it's not easy. Like it might, like it, and a future secretary might not be able to figure out how to do it. So,
but the link would be to the document in your library, right?
right. But so if we want to update the document,
Yeah.
So yeah, we could link to a specific version of the document, but it would if that became no longer the most recent version of the document, that would be hard to update in that
We
way.
could perhaps do a location of the directory where it would be, but
Right.
still in
Yeah,
all.
there's ways we can do it.
Okay. Well, anyways, that's what I'm thinking, is that I will have in the appendices, we can have just some brief descriptions of the system, which I can write up, draft anyways for the committee. And then Jeff, I'll work with you to put up, and we can do that anytime right now, the documents that we have.
Or Tom can do it too.
I can do it. What do
Okay.
you want to call it? What do you want to call it?
I would say, well, let's just for now just put the Nescoin Sanitation District infrastructure.
How about Nesquin infrastructure?
Well, there's a sanitation infrastructure, and then there's a water district infrastructure.
They're
and,
both infrastructures, right?
yeah,
and they're
two
both
separate
Nesquin.
districts.
All right, we'll put them in the same directory.
Okay.
Less words.
All right.
Okay, that's
The
where
other
they'll go.
the other thing that the water district has that we're trying to, the infrastructure thing, and trying to have it as what their plans are, where they see upgrades needed and that kind of thing. I mean, that would be maybe interesting to some people as to what are the plans for upgrades or replacement or whatever in both of those districts. The other thing that the water district has that it's required, and we just filed it a couple of weeks ago, is a conservation plan, which is quite extensive. And I'll also, Jeff, give you that plan, which I think people may find interesting. And it also talks about the limits that our system has, the water system. So.
Okay. I'm not sure we're going to make any more progress on this than that. So, Laurie, did you want to? You're muted, by the way.
We have a new guest. I'm hoping that they will introduce themselves. They show their phone number as 503-260-1369. And you show as muted, so I think you'll have to unmute yourself.
*6.
As you just learned, okay.
Yeah, I did. I've always heard people say *6, but I never used it until just now.
So in order for our minutes to be accurate, we need that person to identify themselves. For our notes to be accurate, because we need these names for participation. So could you please identify yourself, 260-1369 for the notes?
This is Roger Wicklund.
Hey,
Thanks.
Roger.
Thanks, Roger. Welcome to the meeting.
Okay.
And it's, what
How
was
do I
the
mute
last
again?
name?
*6? Wicklund, Wicklund.
Thank you.
Do I mute again with *6?
Yeah, you're outside, it sounds like, Roger, and the wind and whatever noise is out there. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm outside, so just hit *6 to mute again.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, sorry to interrupt for that.
Okay,
Tom,
I think I basically I can go from here and fleshing that out. I think I have a good sense for what how we need to do that. Maybe we could discuss that again. I'll get it a little bit more refined.
one comment I have about the appendices is if there are new issues that aren't in the current community plan that we want people to be aware of, but they don't fit into the land use concept that Sarah presented, perhaps that could be in an appendix, like new issues of importance to Neskowin community or something. But we could create something there if it's not technically appropriate for the main part of the community plan document.
Or we could put it in the main body as under something like, you know, future challenges to Neskowin or something. I don't know, other than the land use request.
Well,
You know, we haven't, one of the things we haven't talked about, which Tom should be in the appendices, is Neskowin and Jeff. I don't know if this is in the library, but the Neskowin Coastal Hazard Adaptation Plan,
Oh yeah.
and that should be in the library. But that's also should be mentioned here that that was approved in 2014, I think, 2015, something like that.
say it again.
It's a Neskowin Coastal Hazard Adaptation Plan. And to your point, Laurie, coastal hazards are going to be and that part of that was that plan says we're going to be faced with more coastal hazards as climate change continues.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to be a challenge for us. How do we adapt to what the ocean is doing to us?
Actually, I would make a case that that belongs with the water and sanitation. They're all infrastructure things.
Well, I think
In a way.
yeah, I mean, one of the strategies in the adaptation plans is retreat, you know, move away from the beach, you know, as the dune, what we were told in our research is that the riprap's not going to last and won't be tall enough. So what do we do then?
Oh, yep.
So it's that
So
kind
yeah.
of thing.
Okay. Good.
How long do we anticipate the non-appendices portion of this to be?
Like how long of a document? How many pages?
Yes.
No
At
idea.
least a third of the document looks to be not really necessary to get the message across. So I'm guessing that we could, this is pure guess because I don't know what you guys are getting up with, but I'd say probably 30 pages instead of 60.
The current plan is, I have it in front of me.
I mean, just to give you an idea, I've gone through the document and highlighted things I think needed to be elsewhere. And I've got a color key to it. So moving things around looks like, I would guess, at least a third less in the main text.
Good. Good.
Maybe more. You know, like I've said this before, I think less words is better. As long as they convey the meaning.
All right.
Okay. So I think I'm done unless we got other things that we want to talk about in terms of work packages.
Well, I have one more. I talked to Sarah Absher on last Thursday, and finally had an opportunity to talk to her about how to respond to the recommendations from 2001. And she, because I said, you know, and she's so busy and it's crazy. And I just said, look, assign me a planner and we'll go through and do it. I want to make sure, I mean, you know, I could kind of do it on my own, but I just want to make sure the language is right and all this. I don't miss anything. And she said, no, I'll do it with you. And can you wait till next week? Not this week, but the week after. She says, I'll sit down with you and do that. So that's her promise to me. So I should have the responses to the recommendations 2001 at our next meeting, if Sarah
Okay.
sticks to her schedule and promise to me.
Okay. We're done with this presentation, right?
I think
Yes.
so.
Yeah,
And
okay.
Tom,
stop
it'll
sharing.
be in the library too for reference to in the notes, correct?
I will send out a link. Yes. Yes, and I will send out a link. There we go.
So Guy, your other one was the outreach to the water and sewer districts. Do you have that information?
Well, that's what I did. I've got their plans,
Oh, right.
the infrastructure
Okay.
stuff. Yeah.
So not anything necessarily that verbally we needed to hear, just to read.
So
Yeah.
if you could send me those, I can put them up in the library.
I will, Tom.
So the next agenda item says preparation for the March 27th executive meeting. Prepare a detailed account of input session plans so far to be shared, discussed with the rest of the executive board, and need a volunteer to sub for Rand at the executive meeting. So I'm wondering if anyone wants to volunteer to be the representative at the executive meeting.
Other
And
than
if we-
you, you're our chair, you're our vice chair here. Go for it.
I don't think I am the vice chair. I think I was the one that was nominated to just run the meeting in his absence. I don't personally feel like I have a detailed account of input session plans so far.
Well,
Because that was,
let me pop in here. Because if you I know we didn't talk about that at all today. But if you're planning to start doing input sessions, but like, were you going to have any in April? I can't remember.
Yes.
So
hoping to.
like you need to come and say, okay, like preferably say this is the date we're looking at, or like and make sure that you don't have any conflicts with other meetings, and make sure that like I'm available to help you set the meeting up and things like that. So like the point of this is like having these input sessions, it's not a just this committee show. You have to coordinate with the rest of, like, with me and the officers in the NCAC, and the executive board meeting is where that happens. So
one of my questions, or at least what I've been kind of in my head tiptoeing around, is the bylaw committee has been having a lot of meetings, and it seems like we'll be able to learn some things from them about their successes and what they think they could have done better, but also seeing a calendar about what other meetings there are that we need to go around would be really helpful. And I believe Rand is back for our next meeting. And
April
so
1st. Yeah.
he and I were supposed to be working on the community meetings together. So we could make a priority to meet before our next steering committee meeting to come up with a plan that then, and that's after the March 27th executive meeting. So perhaps at the March 27th executive meeting, either Rand or I could go. We could learn about the schedule for every other meeting that we know about and set out a potential draft schedule that then we would talk about with the information we get at the executive meeting, we could talk about at our next steering committee meeting. Does that seem like a plan?
That seems fine. Do you want to talk amongst yourselves and pick some dates that you think, because bylaws is going to be mostly done. And by the way, you have Tom on your committee. So their feedback sessions are going to be finished on April 2nd.
And then there's going to be a special meeting, correct?
Yes, and that'll be probably May 11th, which that you didn't know. That's one of those things that but coordinating with bylaws should not be difficult for you because you have Tom.
Okay.
Yep.
So I would suggest, because April is the one where like you're really kind of like running up against the constraints of just getting organized if you don't know what date you want. And I would suggest maybe you look at some prospective dates, which we can talk about on the 27th now. And then for May and beyond, we have future executive board meetings that you can come to. But if you want to have a meeting in April, like it would really be best if you have an idea when you want to do that and whether it's going to be hybrid, whether we need to ask help from Sarah, things like that.
So Tom, do you have any feedback about picking dates for community meetings from what you've learned with the bylaws committee?
Well, in general, what kind of times? It's usually the evening at 7 or Saturday at 2. We've settled on that in terms of meeting times. That seems to be working. We could look at the calendar in the NCAC website and see what the currently scheduled calendars things are. I think that's up to date, isn't it?
I think
The one thing that's missing is the general meeting on the 13th. I haven't put that on there yet, but
Okay.
everything else is on there. And there's no, like, there's committee meetings and stuff, but there's no public meetings that you have to coordinate with.
I would just suggest for the public meetings, we want to pick times that are good for the public. That's a different set of criteria. So just in selecting days and times.
Yeah, well, it's either in the evening and during the week or a Saturday in the afternoon. That generally seems to be the two times that people find most receptive. At least that was our experience.
Tom, did you find that Saturday or Wednesday worked better? Did you consistently get more people at one than the other?
You get more people, the more controversy you have.
Actually, yes. Okay.
I don't think there's any other gauge. As we've become less interesting, we're having less people attend.
So we're going to need, as we've discussed previously, we're going to need a variety of meetings so that we get the weekend people and the weekday people and and I don't know how many know in Nesco are on a Saturday, Sunday off schedule versus a Monday, Tuesday, or a Sunday, Monday is perhaps more common. I would, for the weekend people, it's going to be much easier to have a morning meeting on a Saturday or Sunday than an afternoon. Afternoon is sometimes is checkout times and golfing times, particularly as we head into spring. Wednesday night makes all kinds of sense because it's not, so I think if as long as we have a mixture of both, we've met our community responsibility. So okay. I don't have specific dates. And I don't know, Jeff, and Tom, if you're looking at an NCAC calendar, maybe looking at which there isn't any spring break in April we need to worry about, but which would be the best Wednesday in terms of not conflicting with the NCAC. and which would be the best Saturday in terms of preferably a morning meeting.
That's what we got. And Jeff, you said that the 13th is not on the schedule yet. So
Yes, but there's a meeting that day, and I think there might be some Monday and Friday meetings of the two committees, one of which is this one, at the end of the month that are not in the calendar yet. But for weekday nights, we don't have anything scheduled yet after April 2nd.
So we could do one, it seems like they should be after the next general meeting so that we can announce them at the next general meeting,
Right, yes.
which would mean that it would be either like the 17th and the 20th, or the 20th and the 14th, or the 14th and the 27th. I don't know if we want the weeks to be staggered. If we
I
are
don't know.
doing a hybrid in person, it seems like that the in-person one should be on a weekend to allow both local and people from other cities to get here. Even though I know not everyone has the weekend off, but
And
traditionally.
we have to check, maybe if we can give 2 or 3 sets of dates to give to Sarah, because for her hybrid thing, I think, aren't we asking county staff to help with that?
Yeah,
We're
we
asking her to help with that. So
right.
you
She
have, like,
promised to be at all the meetings. So that's a good idea. We should ask her what her Wednesday evening schedules are and her Saturday morning schedules for April. Because you're right, her day is complicated. I guess
So-
I can email her about that. I'll email her about that.
So we're looking at 17th and 20th and 24th and 27th as 2 good options.
Right, and the question would be, do we think they should be on alternate weeks? Like if it was the 17th, it would be on the 27th, or are we thinking it would be the 17th and the 20th? Or maybe it depends on her schedule.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to be flexible for her schedule. I don't know, but those are all good dates to have in mind.
Okay,
I
well,
don't have any conflicts.
I will send Sarah an email asking her if she would be available to do hybrid meetings for all of them, actually. I mean, if it's possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
The 17th, the 20th, the 24th, the 27th. And would all of those meetings be about the values, or would we be doing the values at the first one and then something different at the second one? I can't remember what we said in the last meeting. But we did say that in the last meeting. I'll look back at our notes. They were in, Lynn, they were in your notes that we just approved.
I know, and let me get those up, because I don't have them. My paper file is at my other. Oh, so, okay, here we go. Oops. Somewhere in here.
Jeff, do you have the minutes from the last meeting that you showed us at the beginning of this
yeah,
meeting?
do you want to see those again?
Yeah, let's look at those again. Because
So,
it said when we were going to do things.
I think it said, here we go. Questionnaire, Thomas gives progress report. Action images.
Guys, I'm gonna have to go. I've got these electricians at the house and I've got to go talk with them.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
It was agreed we will follow this sequence and topics in the public meetings. The review and comment on the existing NESCO value statement would be April and May. Infrastructure is June and July. Zoning is August and September.
Okay, so if we went to that, like the 24th and maybe even the first week of April, we would be within our plan for when we would be getting feedback.
Right.
All right, well, I will add to this list of dates for Sarah the following, that first week of April also, just in case that's going to be better for her. That would be the 3rd and the 6th.
And just so you know, is I'm having my second hip replacement on March 29th, and I will not be able to drive for 2 weeks. But I can certainly participate in the hybrid. So that's why I will not be able to attend in person, but otherwise we'll try to attend in person.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Okay, well, it's 3:45. We lost Guy. Let me look at what our rest. So can we put together a agenda for our next meeting? Oh, actually, public comment comes next. Is there any public comment from Roger or Harvey? Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I have no comments. Doing a great job. I really appreciate your efforts and energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger, are you gonna *6 us?
He's unmuted.
I'm unmuted. Yes. No, I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for attending. All right, then our next agenda, I know we tabled Guy's presentation about the 2001 recommendation, so let's put that as our first item on the agenda. And then I would suggest having quite a discussion about how we're going to structure the community meetings that we have coming up. And Tom, you said that you were very familiar with presenting meetings like that, so maybe you could suggest the format that you're comfortable presenting.
Okay.
And then I hope that we have a really open discussion about, what we're going to present, how we're going to get the feedback, how we're going to record it and structure it and be able to make that information available in a written way for the next meeting to build on, all those kinds of things.
So the public meeting will be a review of the current values.
The way that we have it now, April and May are public meetings to refine and to review the current values and get them to be a statement that we're proposing be in the final plan, so that we can do all the other public meetings based on the values that we now are proposing as being the current values. That's my understanding.
Okay,
And
fair enough.
and I know that Laurie and Rand, that's kind of, or Rand's not here, but that's been, you two have been sort of owning that so far, because you probably want to do a lot of the legwork outside of these meetings, because otherwise you want to have kind of most of it figured out, come to the meeting, present to your committee members, and then like refine and yeah.
And so a little bit of my difficulty with that is the only being able to talk to 2 people, unless, I don't know, can we have like a subcommittee meeting posted or something? Because if Tom's the one that has the idea how he feels comfortable presenting, but Rand and I are talking about what's going to happen at the community meeting.
So I would say that you and Rand, I mean, I don't know when Rand is actually back and able to like meet with you and recovered from his trip, because that is a factor. But ideally, you and Rand would kind of like go, okay, this is what we want to figure out, and like this is how we want to use the public meetings and talk about it, and then come to the April 1st meeting where you're going to do all the prep work, because that's going to like I guess you'll have April 1st and April 15th to prepare, because you're not going to meet before April 15th.
Okay.
So you have April 1st and April 15th to sync up with the rest of the committee and Tom about like the details of what happens in the meeting.
Yeah. Alternatively, you two can decide what content you want to present, and this Rand or you could send it to me, and then I could digest it and put it on the website. So, I mean, it is possible to do some pre-work without that, but it's up to you guys to to define the content. You give me the content and I'll figure out a way to get it on the screen.
So can I just ask a quick question as the note taker? I was texting with my surgical team while Laurie first started what Guy's presentation is about for our agenda next time, and remind me what that agenda item is, just so I can capture it in the notes.
It's exactly the same as number 8 on our agenda today. Guys, 2001 recommendations, which were adopted, which were not adopted, and which are off limits.
Thank you.
So pretty much the first 2 items on that I see on the agenda for the next meeting are the last 2 from the agenda from this meeting, number 8 and actually that's not true. Number 8 and number 10. So number 10 is prep for March 27th. Well, that's not true. Never mind.
But,
Okay,
but,
I got it.
but you mean prep for your
Right.
meeting,
The
right?
community meetings. Yeah.
Like, go back to what Guy said and then really prep for your community meetings.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, and then does anyone else have any new business?
So for the next meeting, well, first of all, like you're going to meet, I think we're confirmed for the 1st and the 15th, and just want to confirm 29th also.
Yes.
Okay. But like, just if there's any situation where like 2 of you are going to be out, we probably want to reschedule because we might lose the 3rd. But
Yeah.
it sounds like right now we're good for the 29th.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And on the 1st, I am most likely not going to be able to make that meeting because I'll be traveling, or like I might it's tentative right now. I haven't like booked any lodging or tickets, but that's the plan. So most likely I will either try and get Chris or Nancy to volunteer to pop on, start your meeting, make one of you host, start the recording, and then either hang out if they're feeling very generous, or leave and let you finish, like conduct the meeting on your own. If that is not possible, I probably will be able to pop onto the meeting myself for a very brief time, just long enough to make someone else the host, let them start the recording. But like Tom, do you think you can be the host if like either way, because I think you're the most technically savvy on the committee. So if you don't have anything scheduled where you might not make it, or might like.
I don't have anything scheduled. I've never run Zoom, but I could probably figure it out.
We can practice beforehand if you want.
Okay, fair enough.
And in the absolute worst case scenario, I can set it up so that you can meet even if even if no one is available, and the main situation there would be we would not have the registration. And I don't know how valuable the registration is, but it's like it's a record of who registered, and that's what we do for all of our other meetings. But I don't think the world will end if we had a meeting with no registration. And so we'll figure it out one way or another. But unless something happens and my plans change, I will not be available the 1st, or available for 5 minutes to get you started.
And just for the record, it's possible I will be there on April 1st, the day after surgery. It's in the afternoon. It's more likely I will not be.
Let's assume you won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you went through this already, right? This is your second one?
This is my second one in 6 months. So
Okay, so you've got practice. You should be right back. Yeah, like
I know. It's amazing. But I think what I'll be doing, I have physical therapy the day after surgery, and my guess is I'm asleep by 2 o'clock, based on prior experience.
Probably so. We should not expect you. So hopefully no one else will have any issues, and we won't have any trouble with quorum. But so all right. I just wanted to get that out there, and Tom, if sometime before then, you and I will practice and you can learn how to be host. You don't have to do very much other than press record.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I do have one question about another agenda item. Tom, when do you think you'll have an actual document that's rearranged as just a start for us to look at?
Well, bylaws has been eating my lunch lately.
I understand that.
So if not
just
the
want-
next meeting, the one after that, because
Okay.
as Jeff mentioned, we're seeing the end of the tunnel. It does not appear to be another train. So
Well, why don't we
I
put
think
it
we're
on
almost done.
let's put it on the agenda for next meeting. And as you can see, we often table whatever we don't
Fair
get
enough.
to the next. So let's put
Fair
it on the agenda for the next meeting. And then if we can't get to it, then we'll get to it the next time or whenever.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, and doesn't sound like any of you want to attend on March 27th. It sounds like Laurie, you're kind of reluctantly agreeing to.
Well,
Um,
I think we have company staying with us that night, but that doesn't mean I could get on a Zoom meeting. So if Rand is available and he wants to, I'll let him and
I think it's kind of on the edge for Rand, but he won't know what's going on because he hasn't been
Right.
to meetings. So
unless he watches the videos,
He should
then he
watch
knows
the
as much as we
videos.
do.
um,
So I'll talk to him. So
But
one
would it
or
be-
the other
Yeah.
one or the other of us, unless someone else is dying to do it.
especially if you've gotten in touch with Sarah and gotten some dates.
Yeah.
But at worst case, send me an email and I will report for you. But it would be great if especially if like more than one of you showed up so that we could kind of like talk more as a team about like what are we going to do in April to make this happen, like when our notice is going out, like things like that. So where are we going to do it? If you want to do a hybrid meeting, like we need a venue, so that also is in the mix.
That's a good thing to talk about at our next meeting because
Yeah.
Lynn, you had some ideas, didn't you? I think last time we talked
Yes.
about.
I did so yes, and I did confirm that the golf course, the club, what's it called? The building where you go in and pay for golf.
Clubhouse.
Yeah, do they call? I'm not sure they call it, but whatever. Yeah, that it has Wi-Fi.
Oh, good.
Well, if you can hook us up with that would be perfect because it's.
And the issue is what we need to do is that the staff doesn't work in April. And so if we want to have, and which meeting, it's the 20th and 27th meetings, 2024, 17, 20, 24, 27. Those are the meetings you might want to have at the golf course. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Well, the golf course board convenes. I'm talking to the chair next week. And I'll ask him about those dates. If you can get back to me, Laurie, after you talk to Sarah about which of those dates are feasible, then I'll talk to him and see if we could maybe have a volunteer from the golf course who would come open the building and be responsible for that. And then we could, so I'll take that up with Siep, the chair of the board, next Monday when I have a call with him.
Okay.
I think if we ever have a need for a larger room, the school would be the better option.
You mean the one over in Cloverdale?
No, at NVS.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
We have a large meeting room.
Okay.
When do you know when they adjourn for the summer? Because
Yeah, good question. June, first part of June. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, because
They're gone now for 2 weeks, but
we're not ready.
yeah. But they
So-
obviously have Wi-Fi and large room. We did a lot of meetings there when we were doing the adaptation plan.
Okay, well, when we start knowing the potential meeting dates, would you be a good liaison to check for
Sure.
availability for us?
Sure.
That
I
would be
think
great.
the meetings, as we get closer to when more people are here, that's when I think, we'll want a larger space. And then of course, when more people are here, you won't be able to use the golf course clubhouse anyways. So, transitioning out to the school would be
Yeah,
better idea.
the golf course is more cozy, and also it's accessible for pedestrians.
Yeah,
So, it'd be nice to start there and then move when needed.
I think it'd be good to do a mix so people don't have to get in their cars. I mean, even having things, the other option is obviously the fire station building, but they didn't have Wi-Fi. That's right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right, well, it is 3:57. Can I adjourn the meeting?
You
Yes.
have the gavel.
Meeting adjourned. Sorry, I had to
okay.
leave there.
That's all right. Thank you all for all
Sup-
your great input.